And welcome to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Tuesday afternoon, May 6th. And temperatures outside in the 60s across the area. A little cooler than yesterday, but still not bad. A few more clouds and temps still hanging out of the 70s in Lakes Country. And we can't even rule out an isolated sprinkle or two. There's been a couple on radar, but other than that, nothing widespread. So if you're hoping for a widespread rain, that is not going to happen. But on radar right now, just to the west of the valley, let's see, out around Tower City, just southwest of Castleton, there's a couple of pop-up showers starting to develop now. So, again, we can't rule out a few isolated pop-up showers as we head into the afternoon, but unfortunately nothing widespread. But, hey, the dry weather is great news for our farmers as they're starting to get out in the field and get a lot of work done, which is it's that time of the year, Bridgette, and that's good news that we can, at least Mother Nature is cooperating for the most part this week.
Is this the point where I should remind you, weren't you the guy who just like 10 days ago kept saying, we need rain? Oh, we desperately need rain.
And we got it. We got it last week.
You've caught on. We didn't quite need as much as you might have thought. And we are full bore back in the field. There have been some localized showers, as you mentioned, out around Hannaford. Those guys were out of the field for a little while this morning, but they're back up and running right now. So seeing lots of things happening. It cooled off so much. I had a bird in my kitchen this morning. Apparently he thought he should swing on in. And I do mean literally swing on in. So
did you leave the window open?
That was fun. Actually, there's a gap above the porch door and the roofing. And the little sparrow snuck in right there, and the patio door was open to the screen porch. So he came over the screen door, in through the patio door, and then kept whacking his head on the kitchen window trying to get out. So I can now add a zookeeper to my resume because that was me in a kitchen towel. Managed to cover him up, trap him, and carry him back outside where he belongs.
I was going to ask how you got him out. So the old kitchen towel trick.
Threw a towel over him because birds are fast. I am not, but apparently my aim was enough to get that thing covered. So it's a mini rodeo every day in our lives. Addison thought it just happened in the control room, but no, it happens all the time, Addison, even when I'm not there.
It's nice to know things go wrong in other places than just in here sometimes.
Right.
And specifically between 1 and 2 p.m. in the afternoon, it looks like. That's when we see it the most, right?
That's the magic hour.
Well, if you are in the field and you've got field condition reports, etc., don't be afraid to give us a call on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701-293-9000. Love to hear from you how those things are going out in the field. Additionally, if you are following along, you can watch us on YouTube and Facebook, Weather and Ag in Focus, as well as on Acres TV. On our Facebook page on Sundays, because it is beef month, May is beef month, I have started posting recipes that contain beef, but are also helpful for field meals, because right now, a lot of people are not stopping to pick up takeout. Maybe if you're close to someplace and you can, but you're not taking the time to run home to have lunch. So if you need a meal delivered to you, maybe it's something you can toss in the crock pot or someone can do at home in the oven. I'll try to help you out for the next little while. Don't want to leave out pork and chicken. We'll get to those in other months as well. So we'll try to keep people busy.
Right. Well, let's take a look at the forecast because you know what? It is pretty darn nice looking as we continue to see mainly dry conditions throughout the majority of the area. But again, there's a few light showers, even embedded thunder showers out around Tower City, right approaching Buffalo right now. And some of those could contain a little bit of lightning, but they're moving westward, almost due eastward, I should say, at about 15 to 20. So some of those could squeak into the valley here if they hold together over the next hour or so. Other than that, we're just looking at partly cloudy, breezy, and cooler for this afternoon with highs in the 60s, upper 60s, with north winds about 10 to 25. Partly cloudy tonight down to 43. And as we head into Wednesday, lighter winds, sunshine, highs in the low 70s. The breeze picks up on Thursday with southeast winds about 10 to 20 and highs into the mid 70s. And then as we head into the upcoming weekend, Friday's going to be breezy and warm with highs in the low 80s. We'll see a few showers or thunder showers possible Friday night into Saturday morning. And the rest of the weekend looks pretty good. A few more clouds on Saturday with highs in the upper 70s. And then as we head into Sunday, windy and warm for Mother's Day with highs into the mid-80s. So all in all, not a bad-looking forecast. Again, might have to dodge a few raindrops along that 94 corridor heading just west of Fargo. And again, some of those could reach the valley here over the next hour. Could see a clap of thunder, but again, we're not expecting anything widespread. And Bridgette, I can almost guarantee you we will get a shower parked over the station here, at least briefly.
Well, I wouldn't be surprised at that.
Well,
Some would say it's a great way for us to clean the windows.
Yeah, well, that's one. That's one. But I washed my car today, so I can almost guarantee.
So it's going to happen.
That's usually, and it'll just be parked over the station. But today's weather is brought to you. What's that?
Dash out there and open the windows, Dean. Dash out there and open the windows,
well,
too.
then a bird will fly in and probably get caught in there.
Right. Right.
And this afternoon's weather is brought to you by Progressive Ag Risk Management Specialists. Boy, I'll tell you, it's for the most part a pretty quiet weather. Now, Bridgette, so like today, we got these pop-up showers and thunder showers. You're out in the field.
Yep.
And you get one of these storms, and, it's going to contain a little bit of, at least moderate rainfall. This one passing through Buffalo right now has some moderate to, looks like on radar, maybe a brief shot of heavy rain. That's not going to pull you out of the field. It's just one lone thunder shower and passing through, right?
You got to tell me how much rain and what was my soil like beforehand. Was it marginal and I maybe was pushing the envelope on being out there in the first place?
Okay.
So potentially. Now, as we get later in the season, particularly as we start doing post herbicide applications, now we can have a concern. Herbicides come with what's called a rain fast interval. And so you need to double check your labels because some have anywhere from an hour to 6 hours that they need to have from the time of application until a rain would come through. When we define a rain there, we say a heavy washing rain that could wash off what's on the leaf surface. The reason for that, these herbicides can be anything from a contact herbicide to one that needs to be absorbed through the open pores, if you will, of the plant into the plant leaf and cuticle, and then moved and translocated throughout the plant because it's actively growing. So yeah, this can affect us, especially as we get into the post-emergent season, or as we think about herbicides. I got the question yesterday after we were on air, and I was asked, okay, my soil is dry. I'm planting my soybeans right now. I don't foresee getting rain, even a pop-up shower, for the next 5 to 7 days. Should I still use a pre-emergent herbicide? And we had a little bit of a pre-emergent discussion yesterday with Marcia Van Leer from Gowan. My advice, again, it's my advice, still do it. Because once you get the rainfall, that product will activate. Some pre-herbicides like Treflan, Sonalan, the trifluralins, ethafluralins, and Prol H2O, they can break down by sunlight. Prol H2O is better at not doing that because of its water-based formulation, but the other two can break down in sunlight. So they require an incorporation with tillage tools, the Treflan within 24 hours, the Sonalan within 48. So you're going to need to make sure that gets worked in. Once you get rain, you'll see activation. Others like sulfentrazones, etc., you're still going to want to make sure that they are on. Make sure that once you have rain, you're going to see that activity happen. Consider, as you're thinking about your pre-emergent herbicides, what you need to be doing when it comes to soil types. Coarse textured sandy soils usually require a lower rate so you don't have any damage to the crop. Whereas if you're using a rate that's too high on a sandy soil, you can indeed hurt your crop. So you're going to want to make sure that you're matching your rates with your soil type. And then we want to think about pH. Soil pH really does make a difference, and it plays a significant role in how your herbicide will react in the field. Many pre-herbicides like atrazine, or in the triazine family in corn, or sulfonylureas, they are ALS inhibitors, those will have a pH dependent behavior. So if you think about atrazine, common pre-emergent in corn, if your soil is acidic, that's under a pH, under 6 for a pH, atrazine will bind to the soil particles and it's really not available in the soil solution. That means it may control weeds less, but it's unlikely to injure the next year's crop. So there's quite a few factors. We've got lots of those that we can talk through for listeners, for folks who are trying to make decisions. But even if you are not a farmer and you're just simply curious about some of the language and terminology we use, feel free to let me know. Again, you can always email me, ag@flagfamily.com, and I can talk about what some of those interactions might be. And we certainly will take your phone calls on the JLA Insurance phone line, 701 293 9000. So much to discover and think about as we move forward into the herbicide application season. So, for a change, Dean, you booked our guest today. So, would you like to go ahead and introduce Blake?
Yeah, so we have Blake Wold. He'll be coming up after the break. Blake and his wife Whitney, they are out in Watford City, and they are owners of Missouri River Red Angus, raising some cattle out there. And so Blake's going to tell us about his operation and about how dry it's been out there and how is that affecting their herd and operations. All of that and more when we come back. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And today's special guest comes all the way out in the western part of the state, Watford City. I want to welcome Blake Wold. Blake is the owner of Missouri River Red Angus. And Blake, welcome to the show today.
Yeah, thank you guys for having me. Appreciate it.
And hey, not a problem. So tell us a little bit about your operation out in Watford City and what you do out west.
Well, I guess I'm a fourth-generation rancher, and we run a commercial cow-calf operation as well as a seed stock purebred Red Angus operation where we have a bull sale every April, and I guess trying to make both of those work, and I guess so.
Gotcha. Now, you know, we were talking on the phone yesterday about how dry it's been and kind of hit and miss, where areas just to your north the other week picked up an inch of rain, and you guys hardly had anything at all. How is that affecting your operation, or is it?
Yeah, it's been really sporadic, that's for sure. I guess as far as affecting us, you know, we're pretty fortunate where we've been able to stockpile some grass, so nothing really changes too much for us right now. Everything will depend kind of how our hay crop goes and what it looks like going into winter. But we have grass for the cows that we have, and so we'll probably do some rotational grazing, and we'll probably do that a little more intensely this year and try to get off of some stuff a little bit earlier and hope for some rain and try to see what kind of growth we can get, I guess.
You know, Blake, I had a producer in South Dakota tell me that his neighbor's response to him was, I'd rent you some pasture if I had any grass. So do you feel like that you guys are in a position where you're going to make it through the summer with what you've got for grass versus maybe somebody close to you? You're kind of right on the button of that red drought area up there.
Yeah, if you look at the drought monitor, McKenzie County's, we're the worst of the worst right now, and we're going to make it through the summer, that's for sure. We've kind of transitioned out of the farming, so we've seeded a lot of our cropland back into some grass and alfalfa and hay. And so we've been stockpiling hay also for the last couple of years. And so winter looks good too, but there's a lot of guys that, you know, they don't know if they'll make it through the summer, and then winter comes and they don't know if they'll have enough hay, and it becomes a guessing game, and you just kind of got to hope and pray that you get some rain. Otherwise, you have some big decisions will be made, kind of like we were back in 2022, and it was really dry.
Yeah. So I heard you say more intensive rotational grazing. What does that compression look like? How much more closely will you move those cattle around through your pasture rotation?
Yeah, so ours isn't super intense. We still have big allotments, but it will be, you know, usually maybe a couple weeks they'll be on something, and then we'll bump them to another one. Whereas normally, if we've had some good growth in grass, they may be able to stay a little bit longer, and just kind of decide as it goes too. But this year we'll have to pay quite a bit more attention to it.
Okay.
And Blake, you broke up at the very start of the conversation. Did you say this was first? You were the first generation?
Fourth generation.
Okay. I didn't get that part. What's been the biggest hurdle since you've been doing this? Anything that stands out?
You know, I guess the biggest thing is when you try to implement some change, you know, when you work with family, and it came with some challenges, but it's also been really good. My parents are a big help on the operation. But change is always tough. Figuring out how you can do things better, what it's going to take to make things easier, maybe easier financially. Just kind of decisions like that are always hard. And then I guess just deciding whether or not you can grow your operation. Nobody really likes to sit still with what they're doing, so growth is always another big thing that's on our mind, I guess. So.
Okay.
So one of the things I was going to ask you as a fourth generation guy, Blake, Have you always been Red Angus operation, or has that been anything that's changed recently over the years?
So I guess back in the day, my grandpa, they ran some Simmentals. My grandpa worked for Select Sires, so I remember my dad always talks about, they
Uh,
were always AI and doing a bunch of different types of things. But from as long as I was a kid, we were always Red Angus. Threw a little Simmental in there maybe 20 years ago, but pretty much primarily Red Angus, and then our registered business is all Red Angus. So.
And Blake, for those that don't know, what's the difference? What makes Red Angus stand out? A lot of people might be shopping in the store and say, "All right, we've got Angus beef, and we've got what makes it stand out so much?"
So the biggest difference between Red Angus and Angus would probably, for me, would be the disposition of the cows. Other than that, you take that hide off of that animal, and they're exactly the same. Angus beef and Red Angus beef, they're going to taste the same, look the same. So it's a hide thing, and the best thing about the Red Angus is the maternal side on the female.
and for you guys for coming in with Red Angus, I mean, you're talking about ease of calving. They're a good muscular animal. When I think about Red Angus, you're kind of in a pocket where there's a number of Angus producers, that Sydney, Montana area into Watford City, etc. So I feel like you're kind of in that's a really good hot spot for all of you to be in.
For sure. No, there's a lot of Red Angus producers right around Watford, and you get into Montana, there's a lot of red cattle that way, and so there's a lot more in our area than a lot of other places, that's for sure.
And Blake, you said you were on the road today, and when we were talking on the phone yesterday, and are you going to sell, or you had mentioned something about this would tie in well with the show today?
So we're on our way home right now with some cows, some donor cows. We were pulling embryos, or not embryos, but we were pulling eggs off of them to create embryos, IVF embryos to put in some other recip cows.
And is it okay? So
explain.
Dean,
is that
do you know what all that meant?
No, I don't know. Well, I mean, from biology, okay. I get part of that, but is this
we're taking eggs out of donor cows, and we're creating embryos with them and another bull, and then we'll it's just like IVF in humans. We'll take those eggs or those embryos, put them in recip cows, and that way we can increase our registered herd with really, really good genetics, a little cheaper than having to go buy a bunch of registered cows.
Now, is this done quite often, or is this something that is newer, I guess you could say?
It's getting to be more and more popular, especially with probably people such as myself who have a smaller operation on the registered side. Allows you to grow and find genetics that fit your operation and improve your herd while being able to do it maybe a little bit cheaper than having to go buy those cows. But yeah, it's fairly new from what I've understand, because there's always been conventional embryos versus IVF embryos, and yeah, there's a lot to it. It's interesting, it's fun, but yeah, it's new for us, that's for sure. Last year was the first year we did it, so we're definitely learning as we go.
And I'm guessing if you started it last year, you've had success with it if you're trying it again this year.
Yeah, so we have our first embryo calves on the ground. We took the same 5 donor cows last year, and we ended up with 32 grade 1 embryos. We put in 23 of them, and 17 stuck, so that's well above the average. So it was extremely successful last year. So we're hoping for the same results.
That's great. That's great. Well, Blake, can you stick around for one more segment with us?
Yeah, you bet.
Excellent. All right. Well, and if you have any questions for Blake, give us a call, 701-293-9000. Again, that's 701-293-9000. Don't go anywhere. We'll be right back.
Welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus. And if you are looking at getting more work done on the farm and doing it safely, particularly through internet connections, you're going to want to talk to Chris Sherman at Tech Support Farm. He can make sure that those things are happening and that they're happening without people swiping your personal information. Chris is also going to be a speaker at some upcoming events, so you can hear what he has to say, his connections to the FBI, Homeland Security, and all the information they share with him, and also get an idea of other questions you might want to ask Chris specifically. You'll see him at Bushell's Buddy Seed Conference as well as Ag PhD Field Day. Those are coming up here in June and July. Lots of summer events are going to be coming up on deck. One of those is our Here We Grow project. Our wheat's going to go in the ground soon, I'm sure of it. And additionally, we'll have a sign up marking the field. Some of the sponsors that you will see on that field include Codeco, Propane and Fuels, because for Codeco, they're more than just fuel. They know that farming isn't just a job, it is a way of life. And when you're in the field, you need diesel, you might need propane when it comes to drying later in the season, and frankly, peace of mind with dependable products and service. Same with Ellingson. The service and maintenance that goes along what they do for service, locating, repair, drain tile design, installation of pumps, lift stations, and wetland banking, so much more. Don't forget to talk to the folks over at Ellingson Companies. Our guest today is Missouri River Red Angus. We're talking with Blake Wold. He is the owner of the operation. He and his wife, Whitney. I was cruising your website, and it looks like you just had a bull sale recently as well. How was your bull sale, Blake?
Yeah, it was pretty good. You know, we changed venues this year. We used to be over at the sale barn in Sydney there, and then we moved it to the new Ag Expo in Watford this year. So it was good. We our average was up. We had another high seller, and so it was not much more than we can ask for.
Okay, so some folks might not realize that bull sales are different than what they were maybe when I was a kid growing up. Going to a bull sale with my dad meant that we literally sat in an arena by the ring and we watched those animals physically move in front of us as you could bid on them. But if you're doing this at the expo center, I don't know that you actually had the livestock right there, did you?
They weren't coming through a ring like they would at a sale barn, but we did have them penned up outside the Ag Expo there. People could come and look at them and ask questions and visit about them. And then we went inside to a banquet room and had supper and then we did them across a video and had it streamed online as well.
Is it more or less work for you to have to bring everybody to town, get them penned up, and then do it by video than if you would have just been at the sale barn and running them through? Because I can only imagine that either way, you're still hauling stock around.
Yeah, I mean we're still definitely hauling them, but it's super convenient. It was closer to home for sure, but I think that it's a positive thing to have the online deal, as well as, you know, your local people can still show up and look at the bulls and visit with you. And so I think it almost has to go hand in hand.
Well, they really have become a bit of a wave of the future. Like many other auctions, online auctions are not all that uncommon anymore. And I think we're seeing quite a few folks that find that ease of buying much more helpful in their operations.
Yeah, I think so. You know, there's a lot of ways for people from all over the country to view what you're trying to sell, whether it's machinery or cattle or anything, but it's definitely changed how things are done. That's for sure.
And Blake, you also deal with seed stock production as well. Is that correct?
Yeah. Yep. That's where we're selling our bulls there. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now, do you do any? And I'm kind of going on the route of tariffs. And do you do any sales to anybody in Canada? And has any of the tariffs affected that?
You know, we don't do anything like that yet. You know, maybe someday there'll be a deal where we have to send some cattle up there if somebody buys a bull or not. But directly, I guess nothing has affected us right now as far as shipping or selling or anything like that directly.
Okay. Have you noticed anything with I think a lot of people are worried about the economy now and maybe possibly turning downward. Hopefully not. But have you noticed anything in regards to sales on that end with the economy?
Nothing yet. I mean, the cattle market's still extremely strong. It's tough to say what it's going to be, come fall. But there's obviously ways to protect yourself in those situations. But as of right now, it doesn't seem like it's affecting us too much. Hopefully it'll have a positive impact on everybody.
So last October, a lot of wildfires rolled through your neighborhood. I think you were sort of on the back side of them, Blake. Anything that affected your land directly, or more to the north and the west, or excuse me, north and the east of you?
So it's kind of a funny story. Our township got a fire department, so there's a bunch of us on the department, and we're new. And last fall the first fire came in over in Arnegard for mutual aid, and so we were over there at 2 a.m, and then we continued on over to Charleston, north of Keene, east of us, mid-morning, and then south of Watford that evening and night to the next day. And so it's pretty wild. And I was talking to our assistant chief here yesterday or the day before, and already this year we've been on 14 calls, and all of last year we were on 19. So it's been a busy spring for fires already.
Well, and I would imagine there's a fair amount of tillage tools and spray trailers hooked up with water sitting on them just in case.
Yeah, there's a lot of people that have been helpful, and they have that stuff kind of ready and available for when we're in their area. So it's definitely helpful.
Good.
And Blake, you said, you've been expanding here over the last, few years or whatnot. Where do you see yourself 10 years from now? Where do you see your operations?
It's fun to think about. It's sometimes it's tough to think about, but I'd like to think that we're going to be still doing the seed stock business and providing really good cattle for commercial guys to use on their own herds. We've talked about getting out of the commercial cows and focusing just on the purebreds, on the seed stock. But at the end of the day, when you have our resources and the land that we rent and run on, we're going to continue to keep doing both. And I think the end goal is to just keep producing extremely good and functional cattle for other people, as well as the consumer. They're the most important person at the end of the day that you got to worry about and make sure you're doing everything right and providing what they want and need as well.
Well, that's a good outlook. That's for sure. No doubt about it. No doubt about it. Well, Blake, if anybody wants to get in touch with you, what's the best way to contact you?
Yeah, I guess a phone call or a text message is always good. We appreciate visiting with people if they have questions. My cell phone is 701-770-4105. Or we do a lot of social media stuff. We're on Facebook. You can look us up just at Missouri River Red Angus. We're getting ready to start breeding cows here this week, so I'm sure we'll be posting videos and pictures and things like that for people to follow along. So
May is beef month.
yeah, it is, and we're happy. We hope everybody's out there buying beef and eating beef, and
that's what I'm having tonight. No doubt. Well, Blake, I want to thank you so much for joining us here on Weather and Ag in Focus. We appreciate your time, and best of luck this season to you. And we'll get you some rain out there by the end of next week.
perfect. That's really all we could ask for right now. Send it our way.
Yeah, excellent. All right, thanks again, Blake. And don't go anywhere. When we come back, we're going to have a quick recap on weather. We've got a few showers on radar west of the valley. We'll cover that. And Bridgette's got a couple of ag topics to go over right after the break. And welcome back to Weather and Ag in Focus on this Tuesday afternoon. We've got a few light showers on radar from just south of Erie through Buffalo and Wheatland area. All those moving eastward, so that'll be approaching Castleton. I tell you, most of these are kind of fizzling out, but we could see some additional ones pop up as a weak disturbance moves in from the west. That could affect the valley. Most of this is going to be pretty light, a light shower or two, but I can't rule out an isolated clap of thunder where you get a heavier downpour, but no widespread rain as we head through the rest of the day. And temperatures kind of hanging where they're at right now in the upper 60s to near 70. And then tonight we'll quiet things down, 43 for a low, and more sunshine for your Wednesday. Lighter winds out of the east-southeast and highs in the low 70s. Thursday it warms up a little bit more, mid-70s, low 80s on Friday. A slight chance, about a 20% chance or so of a Friday night or Saturday morning shower or thunder shower. And then the rest of the weekend looks pretty good. Partly cloudy on Saturday with highs in the upper 70s. Then it turns windy for your Mother's Day, but highs in the mid to upper 80s on Mother's Day. Might have to crank on that air conditioner for the first time this year as we get more summer-like temperatures coming our way.
Well, speaking of those weekend temperatures, you mentioned it could be a little windy for Mother's Day. Do not forget to listen to the Coffee Club all this week in the mornings for a chance to win the Mother's Day prize package. That includes a 4-pack of tickets for the band Chicago at Shields Arena in June. For all of you who want to relive your years of 80s and Chicago's music, raise your hands. It was great. Then also you'll get a hanging basket from Cheyenne Gardens, dinner for 2 at Granite City, a 4-hour deep clean of your home from Mama Duck's Cleaning. Just take the cleaning. Even if nothing else pans out for you, get the cleaning service. I'd say that's worth it. Then you also get a 2-night getaway at a suite at the Clubhouse Hotel and Suites in Fargo. So again, pay attention to that. That's well over $1,000 in prizes. We want to make sure you're the winner, and you can do that by listening to the Coffee Club every day this week in the mornings from 8:30 to 11.
That's a nice package deal for Mama, right?
It's a great one.
Yeah.
All right, pecans, or if you live in far enough south, pecans. They had their own special National Pecan Day, and that was April 14th. But there's a lot of things that we may not know about them. First of all, it's not actually a nut. It's technically a drupe, which is a fruit with a single stone or pit surrounded by a husk. All right, so Addison, feel free to find out how many other drupes are out there, but pecans is one of them. Now, they were native to the Americas. Colonial Americans thought they were a delicacy. We are the leading producer of pecans. We account for about 80% of global supply, and close to 30% of our pecans are indeed exported. Georgia raises the most, followed closely by New Mexico, Arizona, and Texas as well. But yet it's the state tree in Texas and the state nut of Alabama, Arkansas, California, Texas, and Louisiana. For those who don't know near enough about pecans, its word actually comes from an Algonquin word referring to pecans, walnuts, and hickories. Algonquin, if you didn't know, was a Native American tribe in the eastern United States. So there's over 1,000 different varieties of pecans. Every pecan pie uses at least half to 3/4 of a pound of nuts, or about 78 pecans. And 1 cup of pecans has slightly more protein than an ounce of chicken. Really?
Wow.
More protein than chicken. But here we go. So keep that in mind if you're wondering how to change up your diet slightly. That'd be one way.
That sounds actually good. I'm not a big pecan fan, but I didn't know it had more protein than chicken. Yikes.
Now you could put the pecans on the chicken and call it a bigger win.
You could.
How's that?
Yeah, there you go.
Okay. One of the things we're going to keep an eye out for as we roll through soybean planting and growing season this year is also going to be, unfortunately, a problem in soybeans that is called sudden death syndrome. So we're familiar with a lot of other things that will happen in soybeans like Phytophthora, Pythium, Rhizoctonia, and even Fusarium. Those items can survive in the soil and disease plant material, so they can affect new soybeans. But a damaging and persistent disease in early planted soybeans would be the sudden death syndrome. And it ranks as a top disease in terms of economic impact. Yield loss can be significant because of several factors. a root rot, which limits the plant's ability to take up water and nutrient, leaf tissue necrosis, which reduces the plant's ability to photosynthesize effectively, and then pod abortion, as well as smaller seed size, and that will impact your final yield. All of these factors can take up to a 50% yield deduction when SDS is present. And really, one of the ways that you're going to need to look to combat this is with seed treatments that SDS has been identified as being able to help. Certain treatments protect not only fungal, but from nematodes as well. And those fungal properties shield the seed and the seedling from SDS fungus. Also, when soybean are planted early, a lot of folks want to check for seed viability after the seed's been in the ground for a couple of weeks. Dig a little trench, check them out, make sure everybody's growing and coming along the way they should be. You can squeeze a soybean to check for firmness to make sure they're not rotting and that they're growing well. So it's not just a matter of seed goes in the ground and everything turns out fine. There's a lot of other things that go along with it. And I would like to say, I think in this particular show today, I've been able to pronounce more words that I've used in agronomy, but never all in 1 hour's time frame. I mean, we're talking everything from photosynthesizing to ethylfluralin to phytophthora and more.
Say
I
that.
got 'em in.
Say that 100 times fast.
Yeah, I thought I'd trip it up on sulfonylureas, but they've been around a long time. Very familiar with that chemistry. So again, we're going to want to make sure we get weed control taken care of, but then also watch out for plant diseases, which could be very prevalent over our summer months and even early on in the season. It's still early. Don't cut back on your pre-herbicide plans. Get them out there. Got plenty of time. It's going to grow better that way.
Yeah. Yep. And for all the gardeners out there, I know we were talking about our last freeze and last frost. We've had our last freeze, but according to the LRC, right around mid-month, I believe it was right around mid-month, we are going to have one last cool blast from Canada where we could see some patchy frost towards mid-month or so. So we'll be keeping an eye on that. If you might want to have those just in case. I mean, everything's going to start blooming with this warm weather by then, and might have to cover some of those tender vegetation up as we head towards mid-month. But that's a couple weeks away. Until then, again, there's a few light showers on radar out to the west, out around the Castleton area, getting some light rain right now, and just southwest of there, moving eastward towards the FM area. So might see a sprinkle or two here as we head towards mid-afternoon. So for Bridgette, myself, I want to thank everybody for joining us. Don't go anywhere. The Jay Thomas Show is coming up next.